Free AWS Cloud Practitioner course. Lesson 2. AWS Global Infrastructure. 1. AWS Infrastructure Overview. 2. AWS DataCenters. 3. What is an AWS region? 4. What is an availability zone? 5. What are points of presence? 6. Benefits AWS Infrastructure. 7. Some exam questions. AWS Infrastructure Overview. The AWS Global Infrastructure is designed and built to deliver a flexible, reliable, scalable, and secure cloud computing environment with high-quality global network performance. These are important components of AWS Global Infrastructure, including AWS Regions, Availability Zones, Edge Locations, AWS Global Infrastructure Visualization, helping you to understand how you can take advantage of them. AWS has the concept of a region, which is a physical location around the world where we cluster data centers. We call each group of logical data centers an availability zone. Each AWS region consists of a minimum of 3, isolated, and physically separate AWSs within a geographic area. The AWS cloud infrastructure is built around AWS regions and availability zones. An AWS region is a physical location in the world where we have multiple availability zones. Availability zones consist of one or more discrete data centers, each with redundant power, networking, and connectivity, housed in separate facilities. These availability zones offer you the ability to operate production applications and databases that are more highly available, fault-tolerant, and scalable than would be possible from a single data center. Data centers. A data center is a facility composed of networked computers, storage systems, and computing infrastructure that organizations use to assemble, process, store, and disseminate large amounts of data. A data center is the location where the actual data resides. Amazon operates state-of-the-art, highly available data centers. The foundation for the AWS infrastructure is the data centers. Customers do not specify a data center for the deployment of resources. Instead, an availability zone is the most granular level of specification that a customer can make. Although rare, failures can occur that affect the availability of instances in the same location. If you host all your instances in a single location that is affected by such a failure, none of your instances will be available. Data centers are securely designed with several factors in mind. Each location is carefully evaluated to mitigate environmental risk. Data centers have a redundant design that anticipates and tolerates failure while maintaining service levels. To ensure availability, critical system components are backed up across multiple availability zones. To ensure capacity, AWS continuously monitors service usage to deploy infrastructure to support availability commitments and requirements. Data center locations are not disclosed and all access to them is restricted. In case of failure, automated processes move data traffic away from the affected area. What is an AWS region? An AWS region is a physical geographical location in the world where we have multiple availability zones. To achieve fault tolerance and stability, regions are isolated from one another. Resources in one region are not automatically replicated to other regions. Each AWS region contains 2 or more availability zones. Similarly to how utilizing multiple AWSs within a region creates a level of high availability, the same can be applied to utilizing multiple regions. Depending on the level of business continuity you require, you may choose to architect your AWS environment to support your applications and services across multiple regions, should an entire region become unavailable, perhaps due to a natural disaster. How to choose a region? There are a few factors that you should consider when you select the optimal region or regions where you store data and use AWS services. Choose a region that is as close as possible to the user and systems that will access them. This will help you reduce latency. Keep in mind that not all services are available in all regions. There is some variation in the cost of running services, which can depend on which region you choose. Depending on the taxes in each country, services vary in price. For example, a service may cost twice as much in the Brazil region as in the Virginia region, USA. Governance and legal requirements. Local laws might require that certain information be kept within geographical boundaries. Such laws might restrict the regions where you can offer content or services. For example, consider the European Union, EU, Data Protection Directive. What is an availability zone? An availability zone, AWS, is one or more discrete data centers with redundant power, networking, and connectivity in an AWS region. AWSs give customers the ability to operate production applications and databases that are more highly available, fault-tolerant, and scalable than would be possible from a single data center. Each AWS has independent power, cooling, and physical security, and are interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking, over fully redundant, dedicated metro fiber providing high throughput, low latency networking. AWSs are physically separated by a meaningful distance, many kilometers, from any other AWS, although all are within 100 kilometers, 60 miles, of each other. However, each AWS will be isolated from the others using separate power and network connectivity that minimizes impact to other AWSs should a single AWS fail. The companies are better isolated and protected from issues such as power outages, lightning strikes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and more. Remember that a single AWS consists of one or more data centers. Since you can deploy your application or your database to multiple AWSs in a single region, your systems will still be running even if 3 or more data centers experienced an outage simultaneously. AWS Points of Presence. AWS provides a global network of point of presence locations consisting of edge locations and a much smaller number of regional edge caches. AWS points of presence are located in most of the major cities around the world. By continuously measuring internet connectivity, performance, and computing to find the best way to route requests, the points of presence deliver a better near real-time user experience. The AWS points of presence are about 225 globally. It is made up of about 215 edge locations and 13 regional edge caches, and this is as of June of 2021. Edge locations are mini data centers. We can describe an edge location as a small setup in different locations. It basically provides low latency connectivity by providing static content to be available from the nearest location of the request. What actually happens here is that instead of getting the information from the source, it just routes to the nearest edge location and delivers the information, reducing the latency. So, by following this way, the access time is reduced and response gets faster. They are used by many AWS services, including Amazon CloudFront, Amazon Route 53, AWS Shield, and AWS Web Application Firewall, AWS WAF, services. Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network, CDN, used to distribute content to end users to reduce latency. Amazon Route 53 is a domain name system, DNS, service. Requests going to either one of these services will be routed to the nearest edge location automatically in order to lower latency. Regional edge caches are used by default with Amazon CloudFront. Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network, CDN. Regional edge caches are used when you have content that is not accessed frequently enough to remain in an edge location. Regional edge caches absorb this content and provide an alternative to that content having to be fetched from the origin server. Benefits AWS Infrastructure. Security. Security at AWS starts with our core infrastructure. Custom built for the cloud and designed to meet the most stringent security requirements in the world, our infrastructure is monitored 24/7 to help ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data. All data flowing across the AWS global network that interconnects our data centers and regions is automatically encrypted at the physical layer before it leaves our secured facilities. You can build on the most secure global infrastructure, knowing you always control your data, including the ability to encrypt it, move it, and manage retention at any time. Availability. AWS delivers the highest network availability of any cloud provider. Each region is fully isolated and comprised of multiple AWSs, which are fully isolated partitions of our infrastructure. To better isolate any issues and achieve high availability, you can partition applications across multiple AWSs in the same region. In addition, AWS control planes and the AWS Management Console are distributed across regions, and include regional API endpoints, which are designed to operate securely for at least 24 hours if isolated from the global control plane functions without requiring customers to access the region or its API endpoints via external networks during any isolation. Performance. The AWS Global Infrastructure is built for performance. AWS regions offer low latency, low packet loss, and high overall network quality. This is achieved with a fully redundant 100 GB fiber network backbone, often providing many terabits of capacity between regions. AWS Local Zones and AWS Wavelength, with our telco providers, provide performance for applications that require single-digit millisecond latencies by delivering AWS infrastructure and services closer to end users and 5G connected devices. Whatever your application needs, you can quickly spin up resources as you need them, deploying hundreds or even thousands of servers in minutes. Scalability. The AWS Global Infrastructure enables companies to be extremely flexible and take advantage of the conceptually infinite scalability of the cloud. Customers used to over-provision to ensure they had enough capacity to handle their business operations at the peak level of activity. Now, they can provision the amount of resources that they actually need, knowing they can instantly scale up or down along with the needs of their business, which also reduces cost and improves the customer's ability to meet their users' demands. Companies can quickly spin up resources as they need them, deploying hundreds or even thousands of servers in minutes. Flexibility. The AWS Global Infrastructure gives you the flexibility of choosing how and where you want to run your workloads, and when you do, you are using the same network, control plane, APIs, and AWS services. If you would like to run your applications globally, you can choose from any of the AWS regions and AWSs. If you need to run your applications with single-digit millisecond latencies to mobile devices and end users, you can choose AWS Local Zones or AWS Wavelength. Or if you would like to run your applications on premises, you can choose AWS Outposts. Global footprint. AWS has the largest global infrastructure footprint of any provider, and this footprint is constantly increasing at a significant rate. When deploying your applications and workloads to the cloud, you have the flexibility in selecting a technology infrastructure that is closest to your primary target of users. You can run your workloads on the cloud that delivers the best support for the broadest set of applications, even those with the highest throughput and lowest latency requirements. And if your data lives off this planet, you can use AWS Ground Station, which provides satellite antennas in close proximity to AWS Infrastructure Regions. Now let's look at some questions that might be asked on the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. Thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful. If you liked it, please subscribe to the channel. It will give me strength to continue with this free AWS Cloud Practitioner course. Thank you.